The visible global financial system, the wire transfers, clearinghouses, and banking networks, is mirrored by a shadow architecture that moves immense value off the grid. Modern money laundering constitutes the systemic exploitation of these parallel financial architectures to shift illicit capital across borders without detection. Data from the UN Office on Drugs and Crime estimates the scale of this leakage. These visualizations show that between 2 and 5% of the global GDP is siphoned into the illicit economy every year. To move this capital, networks rely on informal value transfer systems, ancient, trust-based structures that bypass international border monitoring. Once moved, that value must be integrated into the formal economy, a role frequently filled by the commercial and luxury real estate markets. Identifying these networks requires an understanding of how illicit funds transition from an informal transfer mechanism into a formal, integrated asset. One primary mechanism is Hawala, or Hundi. FinCEN defines this as an alternative remittance system operating on trust and regional affiliations, running entirely parallel to traditional banking. A specific case study illustrates the process. Abdul, a taxi driver in New York, needs to send $5,000 to his brother, Mohammed, in Karachi. Traditional banking creates significant friction for this transaction. It requires an established account, offers a poor exchange rate of 31 rupees per dollar, and involves high fees for a bank draft that can take a week to arrive. Abdul turns to the alternative. He visits Yasmin, a hawalater operating out of an unassuming travel service agency in Jackson Heights. Yasmin offers a more efficient market solution, an exchange rate of 37 rupees per dollar, a minimal flat fee, immediate delivery, and zero paperwork. The transaction begins when Abdul hands his $5,000 in cash directly to Yasmin in New York. Yasmin uses phone, fax, or email to contact her counterpart, Ghulam, in Karachi with payout instructions. The original $5,000 remains in New York. Ghulam then dispenses 180,000 rupees to Muhammad directly from his own local liquidity reserves. The two hawaladars balance the ledger at a later date, often settling the debt through trade misinvoicing or the exchange of physical goods. The value has been successfully moved into the local community in Karachi, and the funds are ready for use. This is money transfer without money movement. Because no negotiable instrument or electronic wire ever crossed an international border, traditional transaction monitoring systems register nothing. Once moved, these illicit funds must be integrated into the formal economy to avoid suspicion during long-term use. Luxury residential real estate is the premier integration vehicle. It provides stable value, utility, and a veneer of respectability that obscures the origin of the money. Property purchases complete the 3 phases of the money laundering cycle: placement of the funds, layering through complex transfers, and final integration. One specific method involves complex credit finance. During loan repayment, owners mix illicit and legal funds to slowly pay off the debt and legitimize the capital. Another method manipulates the property's valuation through successive, artificially inflated sales between connected parties. Finally, the use of corporate vehicles and shell companies can mask the ultimate buyer, ensuring the true owner remains anonymous. These transactions effectively launder money by transforming liquid cash into a legally defensible physical asset. Since banking algorithms often fail to flag these purchases, the burden of detection falls on non-financial gatekeepers like real estate agents and lawyers. The European Parliament utilizes a tripartite risk matrix to identify suspicious activity, categorized by customer, transaction, and geographical risk. Customer risk analysis looks for a severe mismatch between a buyer's apparent wealth or declared income and the value of the property. It also examines beneficial ownership obfuscation through the use of opaque third parties and trusts. The second pillar, transaction risk, evaluates whether the transaction itself makes professional or commercial sense. Specific red flags include purchasing without viewing the property, showing zero interest in negotiating the price, or utilizing complex private loans from unidentified lenders. Geographical risk focuses on the spatial logic of the entities involved. This pillar flags unexplained distances between the buyer's center of life, the origin of the funds, and the physical location of the property. Identifying real estate integration requires looking past the funds to the absence of normal commercial behavior across these 3 pillars. Sophisticated money laundering relies on the handover from informal, borderless remittance networks directly into formal asset integration. This is not a victimless accounting trick. These illicit flows create significant socioeconomic consequences. Unchecked illicit flows distort resource allocation, creating volatile and skewed local markets. These investments artificially drive up real estate prices and reduce housing affordability, effectively displacing local citizens from their own cities. Combating this requires systemic countermeasures, specifically mandating ultimate beneficial ownership transparency to reveal the individuals behind corporate veils. Policies must also extend rigorous customer due diligence requirements to the lawyers and agents serving as non-financial gatekeepers. Effective enforcement requires looking beyond traditional banking to understand the dark architecture connecting local trust networks to the global real estate market.